In the last several years, when a plane goes down, they search through the wreckage for a little thing called the black box. It's made of some sort of indestructible material. I don't know what it is, but I heard a comedian one time ask, why don't they just make the whole plane out of it? Somehow, this box is made so that even in the midst of a terrible, horrible, fiery crash, they can usually find it. And then the people at the FAA take that box and they have a moment where they can look back in time and listen and watch to what was happening exactly to create or recreate what happened when the plane went down. They can hear the voice of the pilot and the sounds in the cabin and the conversation with the tower. And they do this because they feel if they can look back at it, they can help prevent it from happening in other places in the future. Every one of us, you and I, whoever's watching this video, all of us, we have a black box. You have those moments, those experiences, those points in your life when you can look back and see what happened. And the hope is that those moments can help you avoid those things again in your life. More importantly, maybe your black box moments can help someone else avoid a terrible mistake. Now, Solomon has a black box. We've looked at Proverbs, where wisdom says, listen to the Lord. And we've looked at the Song of Solomon, or the Song of Songs, where passion says, run after love. These are the first two acts of Solomon's life. And now we come to Act 3, called The Last Lecture of the Wise King. It is the black box of Solomon's life, and it's called Ecclesiastes. And it's a very black box. I mean, it's not the most uplifting book. I mean, it starts out with these words in Ecclesiastes chapter 1. These are the words of the teacher, King David's son, who ruled in Jerusalem. Everything is meaningless, says the teacher, completely meaningless. What do people get for all their hard work under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth never changes. The sun rises and the sun sets, then hurries around to rise again. The winds blow south and then turn north. Around and around it goes, blowing in circles. Rivers run into the sea, but the sea is never full. Then the water returns again to the rivers and flows out again to the sea. Everything is wearisome beyond description. No matter how much we see, we are never satisfied. No matter how much we hear, we are not content. History merely repeats itself. It has all been done before. Nothing under the sun is truly new. Sometimes people say here is something new, but actually it's old. Nothing is ever truly new. We don't remember what happened in the past, and in future generations, no one will remember what we are doing now. Wow. I mean, this is really the power of positive thinking lecture right here. Several years ago, my middle daughter, Grayson, she's 10 now, but when she was younger, she very seriously asked my wife, the sun goes up, the sun goes down. The sun goes up, the sun goes down. Why does just do this? I was like, what? I was waiting for her to just cry out, meaningless! Solomon starts by making observations of life and how wearisome they are, how much vanity is in the world. He says meaningless. It's his black box where Solomon opens up everything that's happened in his life and says it's worth nothing. And the Hebrew word here is chabel. Now, in order to say it, you sort of have to get some phlegm in there, kind of like you're going to hock a loogie a little bit, you know. And you got to chabel. Okay, just say hebel or chabel. It's chabel. So this Hebrew word is chabel, which is translated here as meaningless. And Solomon used it over 50 times in the book. Now, the best illustration of what chabel means that I can think of can be found in this. This is a gift bag. Most of you have probably received a gift bag at some point, right? They're pretty handy, you know. They're quick, they're convenient. But like 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have gift bags. When I was a kid, I don't ever remember getting a gift bag. It was always wrapped. But now we have gift bags. They're convenient. They're handy. Probably someone who was a terrible gift wrapper, thought to themselves, wouldn't it be so much easier if we could just put this gift in a bag? Hey, we'll call it a gift bag. But you see, the bag is not the secret to the gift. This is not the secret to the gift. This doesn't make the gift appealing. It's not about the bag at all. It's the paper inside of it. You've got to have the paper. I mean, which one looks better to you? No paper? Oh, somebody didn't put any time into that. Paper. Oh, that's so nice. Look at that. See? The paper makes the gift. I used to like getting the biggest bag for the smallest gift and then wrapping the gift up in the paper, then throwing it at the bottom of the bag, then stuffing paper all on top of it. But what do kids do when they get this kind of gift? You give this to a gift, and they're like, oh, and you spent so much time getting this paper just right and put it in there, and you make it look perfect, and they go, oh, and the paper's gone. And nobody even thinks about the paper unless you're one of those weirdos who likes to fold the paper and reuse it. But they rip it out and they throw it on the ground. And when you pull all the paper out, there's nothing to this. See, that's Solomon's wisdom moment. This, let me pick it up real quick. This is Hebel. It's just paper. Money, Hebel. It's nothing, he says. You get to the end of your life, and what good is it going to do you? Pleasure, it's nothing. What's it going to get you? Sure, go ahead and have 700 wives and 300 concubines and think, wow, what a life. Solomon says, been there, done that, trash. Power, you can be the most powerful person in the world. You can be the king, and when you're done, nothing. It's all just trash on the floor on Christmas Day. It's all Hebel. Well, I didn't want to finish looking at Solomon's life here at this moment, but I had to. It'd have been great to just say, we need wisdom and passion, and ending it on that one and then moving on. But we couldn't. We had to come to this and open it up and see that as we live our lives for God, trying to live His will, trying to live as the church, as we look forward and we plan and we try to see what is God's will, not only for us as individuals, but us as a church here in our community, we have to ask the question, have I spent all of my time focusing and fussing with the paper? Fussing with emptiness? Fussing with, I could only get that car, if only I could get that house, if only I could get that piece of technology, if only I could get that position, if only I could get that person, that man or that woman, that girl or that guy, then I would finally be fill in the blank. And Solomon says, hey, it's all meaningless. Oh, it looks nice. And you can make it look great. It makes your life look great. You can puff it up and make something look really good. You can spend a lot of time on this paper and make sure it's at the perfect angle and fold it perfectly and make it look really professional. You'll spend all of your time saving it up, keeping it nice, and then you'll have to give it to someone who doesn't care a thing about it. I remember when my granddaddy died almost 11 years ago now. Grandmommy took her time going through all of his stuff, and 3 months later, we all gathered together to look through it. And she told us that she had threw away probably 3/4 of the stuff, but we could choose from what was left. I mean, you probably know what I'm talking about because you've probably been there. And I stood there in the living room and thought, this is where it all ends up. On display for your family to take a few things, and then it's gone. She took 2 more carloads to give away. All those card collections, all those little sentimental pieces, all the plaques, all the trophies, the Ain't I Wonderful wall, those things that we collect in our lives, Hebel. And we say, isn't all of this important? And Solomon says it depends. If God's not in it, it's Hebel. If God's not in a relationship, it's temporary. If God's not in your life plans, it's paper. And we get disappointed and frustrated. And we say, well, good grief, what matters then? Well, let's go back to the black box and go to the very end of the book of Ecclesiastes. And Solomon says it's not power, it's not possessions, it's not money, it's not women. In chapter 12, verse 13, he says, that's the whole story. Here now is my final conclusion. Fear God and obey His commands, for this is everyone's duty. Here is the wise man at the end, giving us something to go on. Solomon gives us that golden nugget of truth. Pitch it to us. Let us have it. And Solomon says, okay, here it goes. Fear God and obey His commands. Wait, what? Man, that sounds pretty simple. I was expecting something more insightful, a little deeper. Just fear God? You got something else? I mean, what else do you need to do? Think about this. If you knew who God was, the creator of the universe, who spoke everything into being, who simply said, let it be, and it was, the judge of heaven and earth, who Solomon says in verse 14 will judge us for everything we do, including every secret thing, whether good or bad. God is the ultimate judge. If you know who God is, then you would fear the Lord. And I don't mean, oh, I'm so scared, oh, please God. I mean a reverential treatment of God that puts you on our knees, us on our knees, and we say, you are so definitely God, and I am so definitely not. Respect him. Put him first. Pay attention when he speaks. Listen to his word, and then keep his commandments. Well, which commandments? Well, for that, Solomon turns us over to another king, the King of Kings. And Jesus steps up to the world stage and says, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and prophets and commandments hang on these two. So we start with a wise young man who seeks God's wisdom, but whose passion leads him astray through 1,000 nights and dark days, and we end up with an old guy. You know, like the old man that lives on your street. Hopefully you have one of those. You know, the guy who's always out in the yard, he's always snipping bushes, he's always doing something. No one really knows what he's doing, but he's always out there, and every time you pass by, he waves. My great-grandfather was the old man on his road, and he knew, even when he couldn't get outside, or we knew, even when he couldn't get outside anymore, he had his chair facing the front door, and just had the screen door closed, but the other door open, and when you passed by, he would do what we call the pawpaw wave, and he wave, both hands like this. And if you did not wave as you drove by his house, he knew it, and he would let you know that he knew it. Because he was watching. He was out there watching, just wanting to wave at somebody. Well, hopefully you have that old man living on your road. Because, see, I can see Solomon standing outside. And as my car's passing, he's waving at me from Ecclesiastes saying, Friend, it's not about the house. It's not about the yard or what's sitting in it. It's not about the clothes or the possessions or the power. It's about God. And if you will honor him and keep his commandments, you will be wise. So are you caught up in the paper? Maybe today is the day that you quietly say in your heart, I'm going to put him first. I'm going to put him number one. And it's time I start listening to the Lord and passionately loving others and God.